Hello everyone and welcome back to Helen's Honest Baking. I've had brownies on my mind lately after reliving my favourite recipe with you all the other week. Since we had so much luck with Yossy Arefi's chocolate chip cookies, I've decided to return to her book Snacking Bakes to put her brownies to the kitchen test. She actually has 2 recipes in here, but I thought I'd stick with her standard variation, the chewy cocoa brownies, and try out her olive oil version another time. The AWW brownies will be hard to beat, so let's see how this next recipe stacks up and get baking. Like many of Yossy's recipes, we're going to start on the stovetop making some brown butter. In here I've got 142 grams of cold unsalted butter, roughly cut into cubes. Let's get this on a medium heat and melt up a storm. Like with her cookies, we continue to heat and stir the melted butter until the milk solids brown off, around about the 3-minute mark. I'm an advocate for using all your senses while cooking, so if you pay attention, you can smell if the browning off is starting to go that little bit too far. This mix is ready to be poured into 225 grams of granulated sugar. I actually tend not to like it when a recipe calls for granulated sugar, because depending on where you grow up, a granule could be really big or really small. Here I've gone for standard off-the-shelf white sugar. And away we whisk, pretty quickly, since our sugar has got to get all dissolved. Next we're adding 1/4 cup or 48 grams of a neutral oil. I have a hard time finding grapeseed oil, which I know is the preferred oil for baking, but I also don't like the processing canola oil, so I've gone for olive oil here because I had it on hand and because Yossy uses it in her other brownie recipe. Following that, we're whisking in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Not much to say about that really. Then 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt. The mix should be a good emulsion by this stage and pretty glossy. But we need more gloss, so here are 2 dancing eggs to get cracking with. In they go, and since this recipe is so simple, we just keep on whisking. Again, I could be using the stand mixer, but I'm not looking for a whole lot of lift, and we're working with melted butter rather than needing to cream it to the moon and back. Nearly there. Now we whisk in 1/8 of a teaspoon, and yes, that is indeed 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda, which Yossy was very clear on in the instructions that yes, this is indeed an annoying quantity, but essential for some lift based on her kitchen tests. This is followed by 60 grams of Dutch processed cocoa powder. I did look this up. The cocoa beans are washed in an alkaline solution before they get cracked into nibs, so essentially your cocoa powder doesn't react anymore with the baking soda. Therefore, natural cocoa powder gives you more lift. I also find it an important part of the baking process to splooge cocoa powder everywhere, because who doesn't love making their sponges a gross brown mess after you clean up? Now doesn't this look chocolatey? To round out the mixing stage, we need to fold in a modest 1/2 cup or 64 grams of all-purpose flour. I probably should have mentioned it sooner, but I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I turned that on back when I was over at the stovetop. The flour is followed by the same volume or 85 grams of chocolate chippies or chopped chocolate. The same brand as our previous brownie test to pretend that I am indeed being consistent. Our mix is now complete and looking pretty perfect, if I do say so myself. Like our other brownie recipe, I've prepped a standard brownie pan with butter grease, a paper sling, and cocoa powder. So here we go. It's at this exact moment that I realize my pan is way too big. This is Snacking Bakes, not Family Bakes, and Yossy wanted us to use an 8 by 8 inch square pan instead. So I don't really have one of those. What do we all do best as home bakers? We improvise. I've been keeping a secret about this pan. When I got it off Amazon, it was actually an all-edge brownie pan that comes with a metal grid that you can lay down so that everything is pre-cut. So with a spray of olive oil and a bit of a prayer to the baking ancestors, I'm pushing the mix to the right of the pan to be held in place by this added frame, and doing a bit of batter sculpture as well to ensure that each square is the right height of mix. I'm aware that there's this whole brownie argument out there, so I'm curious. So let me know in the comments below if you're an edge person or a middle person. I am more of a middle person, which is why I tend not to use this rack all that much, but I can respect edge folks. They are indeed cleaner on the hands. In these go in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes. We want them to be just set in the middle, so the skewer may come out a little wet, but that's okay. And here they are back and looking tasty. Our little miscalculation earlier seems to have had no impact on the end result, which has enough height and a glossy cracked top. So, improvisation for the win. Now your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to let these brownies cool completely in the pan before scarfing them down. Mine are still a little warm, but cool enough to handle. Our funky rack has been our technique for extracting the brownies is a little unorthodox. I am demonstrating the poke and plop method here, while thankful that the olive oil seems to have done its job to stop the squares from sticking. And I won't lie, this is a little fun. And now for our close-up. You can see how the edge pan has made each side a little crispier, but that aside, we can already see that these are less fudgy and more cakey than the AWW ones. But the proof is in the pudding, so let's go for the taste test. For appearance, they have a beautiful top, but I probably would have liked a richer colour. They're still Insta-worthy though, so I'll give them a 4.0. For taste, I'm going with a 4 as well. They're not too sweet, and the chocolate flavour is nice, although it could be amped up a bit more in my opinion. For texture, I've put a 4 here, but I've changed my mind after having had them 1 to 2 days later, since they are nowhere near as fudgy as I would like, and the cakiness tends to go dry quickly. So this is a 3.5 now. I know this may just be a personal preference, and next time I'll use high-end chopped chocolate so that it blends in a bit better for a smoother mouthfeel. And finally, for ease, I'm bumping up to a great 4.5. This was simple to do, the instructions were clear, the ingredients had both grams and cups, and the built-in flexibility was appreciated. I could only really mark down for the sugar thing, which I know is me being picky, and not using the standard brownie pan. Altogether, this gives us a high 16 out of 20. And that jives because these are easy, fast, and chocolatey. Not bad. The AWW brownies still come out on top for their added fudginess, but that recipe was a bit more vague. So thank you again for watching Helen's Honest Baking. If you can, please do me a favor and like and subscribe so others can find me too. And don't forget you can find the excellent snacking bakes by Yorry Arefi wherever you get your good books. I'd also love to hear your experience with this recipe in the comments or any suggestions for brownie recipes to try next. Happy baking, everyone, and bye.